Welcome, Wapham crew, guys, gals, ghouls, friends, fiends, foes, whoever may be listening beyond the Omniverse tonight. Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a rocky mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 420 in colorful Colorado. It is Sunday, October 20th, Monday, October 21st for those of you across the pond and beyond. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining me on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. I'm your host, TessaTNT, and we are broadcasting live from the Mile High Clubhouse tonight. If you're listening live right now, you may be listening to us on KPNL Radio, which you can find at kpnlradio at kpnl-db.com. You may also find us on eTalk Radio, which you can find at etalk.tv/radio. If you want to watch as well as listen, you can also find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch under We Are Paradox Media. If you don't mind, mosey on over to our YouTube page. Please subscribe, give that bell a little tickle, and let me know your thoughts, good, bad, books you'd like me to read, guests you'd like me to have on, etc. You can also drop me a line at weareparadoxmedia@gmail.com, and I will try my best to get this guest or whichever book you'd like me to read. So tonight it's story time with me, TessaTNT, and we are going to be getting back into Douglas Adams' Mostly Harmless. And I do believe we may finish this book this evening, but we'll just have to see how that goes. And then, after the first 2 hours, we're going to watch a creepy video together. Alright, we're on chapter 19. It was a sight that Arthur never quite got used to, or tired of. He and Ford had tracked their way swiftly along the side of the small river that flowed down along the bed of the valley, and when at last they reached the margin of the plains, they pulled themselves up into the branches of a large tree to get a better view of one of the stranger or more wonderful visions that the galaxy has to offer. The great thunderous herd of thousands upon thousands of perfectly normal beasts was sweeping in magnificent array across the Ampondo plain. In the early pale light of the morning, as the great animals charged through the fine steam of the sweat of their bodies mingled with a muddy mist churned up by their pounding hooves, their appearance seemed a little unreal and ghostly anyway. But what was heart-stopping about them was where they came from and where they went to, which appeared to be simply nowhere. They formed a solid, charging phalanx, roughly 100 yards wide and half a mile long. The phalanx never moved, except that it exhibited a slight gradual drift sideways and backward for the 8 or 9 days that it regularly appeared for. But though the phalanx stayed more or less constant, the great beasts of which it was composed charged steadily at upward of 20 miles an hour, appearing suddenly from thin air at one end of the plain and disappearing equally abruptly at the other end. No one knew where they came from. No one knew where they went. They were so important to the lives of the Lemulans, it was almost as if nobody liked to ask. Old Thrashbark had said on one occasion that sometimes if you received an answer, the question might be taken away. Some of the villagers had privately said that this was the only properly wise thing that they'd ever heard, and after short debate on the matter, had put it down to chance. The noise of the pounding of the hooves was so intense that it was hard to hear anything else above it. "What did you say?" shouted Arthur. "I said," shouted Ford, "this looks like it might be some kind of evidence of dimensional drift." "Which is that?" shouted Arthur back. "Well, a lot of people are beginning to worry that space-time is showing signs of cracking up with everything that's happening to it. There are quite a lot of worlds where you can see how the land masses have cracked up and moved around just from weirdly long or meandering routes that migrating animals take. This might be something like that. We live in twisted times, still in the absence of a decent spaceport. Arthur looked at him in a kind of frozen way. "What do you mean?" he said. "What do you mean, what do I mean?" shouted Ford. "You know perfectly well what I mean. We're going to ride our way out of here. Are you seriously suggesting we try to ride a perfectly normal beast?" "Yeah, see where it goes to." "We'll be killed, no?" said Arthur suddenly. "We won't be killed. At least I won't. Ford, have you ever heard of a planet called Stavromula Beta?" Ford frowned. "Don't think so," he said. He pulled out his own battered old copy of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and accessed it. "Any funny spelling?" he said. "Don't know. I've only ever heard it said, and that was by someone who had a mouthful of other people's teeth. You remember I told you about Agrajak?" Ford thought for a moment. "You mean, the guy who was convinced you were getting him killed over and over again?" "Yes, one of the places he called I got him killed was Stavromula Beta. Someone tries to shoot me, it seems. I duck, and Agrajak, or at least one of his many reincarnations, gets hit. It seems that this has definitely happened at some point in time, so I suppose I can't get killed at least until after I've ducked on Stavromula Beta. Only no one's ever heard of it." Ford tried a few other searches of The Hitchhiker's Guide, but drew a blank. "Nothing," he said. "Well, no, I've never heard of it," said Ford finally. He wondered why it was ringing a very, very faint bell, though. "Okay," said Arthur. "I've seen the way. The Lemulan hunters trap perfectly normal beasts. If you spear one in the herd, it just gets trampled, so they have to lure them out one at a time for the kill. It's very like the way a matador works, you know, with a brightly colored cape. You get one to charge at you, and then you step aside and execute a rather elegant swing through the cape. Have you got anything like a brightly colored cape about you?" "This do?" said Ford, handing him his towel. Chapter 20. Leaping onto the back of 1.5-ton perfectly normal beast migrating through your world at a thundering 30 miles an hour is not as easy as it might at first seem. Certainly, it is not as easy as the Lemulan hunters made it seem, and Arthur Dent was prepared to discover that this might turn out to be the difficult bit. What he hadn't been prepared to discover, however, was how difficult it was even getting to the difficult bit. It was the bit that was supposed to be the easy bit that turned out to be practically impossible. They couldn't even catch the attention of a single animal. The perfectly normal beasts were so intent on working up a good thunder with their hooves, heads down, shoulders forward, back legs pounding the ground into porridge, that it would have taken something not merely startling but actually geological to disturb them. The sheer amount of thundering and pounding was, in the end, more than Arthur and Ford could deal with. After they had spent nearly 2 hours prancing about doing increasingly foolish things with a medium-sized floral-patterned bath towel, they had not managed to get even one of the great beasts thundering and pounding past them to do so much as glance casually in their direction. They were within 3 feet of the horizontal avalanche of sweating bodies. To have been much nearer would have been to risk instant death, chronologic or non-chronologic. Arthur had seen what remained of any perfectly normal beast which, as the result of a clumsy misthrow by young and inexperienced Lemulan hunter, got speared while still thundering and pounding with the herd. One stumble was all it took. No prior appointment with death on Stavromula Beta, whatever the hell Stavromula Beta was, would save you or anybody else from the thunderous, mangling pounding of their hooves. At last, Arthur and Ford staggered back. They sat down, exhausted and defeated. and started to criticize each other's technique with a towel. "You've got to flick it more," complained Ford. "You need more follow-through from the elbow if you're going to get those blasted creatures to notice anything at all." "Follow through," protested Arthur. "You need more suppleness in your wrist." "You need more after flourish," countered Ford. "You need a bigger towel." "You need," said another voice, "a peekabird." "You what?" The voice had come from behind them. They turned, and there, standing behind them in the early morning sun, was old Thrashbarg. "To attract the attention of a perfectly normal beast," he said, as he walked forward toward them, "you need a peekabird like this." From under the rough, cassocky, robe-like thing he wore, he drew a small peekabird. It sat restlessly on old Thrashbarg's hand and peered intently at Bob knows what, darting around about 3 feet 6 inches in front of it. Ford instantly went into the sort of alert crouch he liked to do when he wasn't quite sure what was going on or what he ought to do about it. He waved his arms around very slowly in what he hoped was an ominous manner. "Who is this?" he hissed. "It's old Thrashbarg," said Arthur quietly, "and I wouldn't bother with any fancy movements. He's just as experienced a bluffer as you are. You could end up dancing around each other all day." "The bird," hissed Ford again. "What's the bird?" "It's just a bird," said Arthur impatiently. "It's like any other bird that lays eggs and goes at things you can't see, or carp or rit or something." "Have you seen one lay eggs?" said Ford suspiciously. "For heaven's sakes, of course I have," said Arthur, "and I've eaten hundreds of them. Make a rather good omelette. The secret is little cubes of cold butter and then whipping it lightly with—" "I don't want a zarking recipe," said Ford. "I just want to be sure it's a real bird and not some kind of multidimensional cyber nightmare." He slowly stood up from his crouched position and started to brush himself down. He was still watching the bird, though. "So," said old Thrashbarg to Arthur, "is it written that Bob shall once more take back unto himself the benediction of his own given sandwich maker?" Ford almost went back into his crouch. "It's all right," muttered Arthur. "He always talks like that." Aloud he said, "Ah, Venerable Thrashbarg, yes. I'm afraid I think I'm going to have to be popping off now, but young Drimple, my apprentice, will be a fine sandwich maker in my stead. He has the aptitude, a deep love of sandwiches, and the skills he has acquired so far, though rudimentary as yet, will in time mature, and, well, I think he'll work out okay, is what I'm trying to say." Old Thrashbarg regarded him gravely. His old gray eyes moved sadly. He held his arms aloft, one still carrying a bobbing peekabird, the other his staff. "Oh, sandwich maker, from Bob," he pronounced. He paused, furrowed his brow, and sighed as he closed his eyes in pious contemplation. "Life," he said, "will be a very great deal less weird without you." Arthur was stunned. "Do you know," he said, "I think that's the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me." "Can we get on, please?" said Ford. Something was already happening. The presence of the peekabird at the end of Thrashbarg's outstretched arm was sending tremors of interest through the thundering herd. The odd head flicked momentarily in their direction. Arthur began to remember some of the perfectly normal beast hunts he had witnessed. He recalled that, as well as the hunter matadors brandishing their capes, there were always others standing behind them holding peekabirds. He had always assumed that, like him, they had just come along to watch. Old Thrashbarg moved forward a little closer to the rolling herd. Some of the beasts were now tossing their heads back with interest at the sight of the peekabird. Old Thrashbarg's outstretched arms were trembling. Only the peekabird itself seemed to show no interest in what was going on. A few anonymous molecules of air, nowhere in particular, engaged all of its perky attention. "Now!" exclaimed old Thrashbarg at last. "Now you may work them with a towel." Arthur advanced with Ford's towel, moving the way hunter matadors did, with with a kind of elegant strut that did not come at all naturally to him. But now he knew what to do, and that it was right. He brandished and flicked the towel a few times to be ready for the moment, and then he watched. Some distance away he spotted the beast he wanted. Head down it was galloping toward him, right on the very edge of the herd. Old Thrashbarg twitched the bird. The beast looked up, tossed its head, and then, just as its head was coming down again, Arthur flourished the towel in the beast's line of sight. It tossed its head again in bemusement, and his eyes followed the movement of the towel. He had got the beast's attention. From that moment on, it seemed the most natural thing to coax and draw the animal toward him. Its head was up, cocked, coax, and draw the animal toward him. Slightly to one side, it was slowly to a canter, and then a trot. A few seconds later, the huge thing was standing there among them, snorting, panting, sweating, and sniffing excitedly at the peekabird, which appeared not to have noticed its arrival at all. With strange sorts of sweeping movements of his arms, old Thrashbarg kept the peekabird in front of the beast, but always out of its reach and always downward. With strange sorts of sweeping movements of the towel, Arthur kept drawing the beast's attention this way and that, always downward. "I don't think I've ever seen anything quite so stupid in my life," muttered Ford. At last the beast dropped bemused but docile to its knees. "Go," whispered old Thrashbarg urgently to Ford. Go now!" Ford leapt up on the great creature's back, scrabbling among its thick, knotty fur for purchase, grasping great handfuls of the stuff to hold him steady once he was in position. "Now, sandwich maker, go!" He performed some elaborate sign and ritual handshake with Arthur, which couldn't quite get the hang of because old Thrashbarg had obviously made it up on the spur of the moment. Then he pushed Arthur forward. Taking a deep breath, he clambered up behind Ford onto the great, hot, heaving back of the beast and held on tight. Huge muscles the size of a sea lion's rippled and flexed beneath him. Old Thrashbarg held the bird suddenly aloft. The beast's head swiveled up to follow it. Thrashbarg pushed upward and upward repeatedly with his arms, and with the peekabird, and slowly, heavily, the perfectly normal beast lurched up off its knees and stood, at last swaying slightly. Its two riders held on fiercely and nervously. Arthur gazed out over the sea of hurtling animals, straining in an attempt to see where it was they were going. But there was nothing but heat. "Can you see anything?" he said to Ford. "No." Ford twisted around to glance back, trying to see if there was any clue as to where they had come. Still nothing. Arthur shouted down to Thrashbarg. "Do you know where they come from?" he called, "or where they're going?" "The domain of the king," shouted old Thrashbarg back. "King?" shouted Arthur in surprise. "What king? The perfectly normal beast is swaying and rocking restlessly under him." "What do you mean, what king?" shouted old Thrashbarg. "The king." "It's just that you never mentioned a king," shouted Arthur, back in some consternation. "What?" shouted old Thrashbarg. The thrumming of 1,000 hooves was very hard to hear over, and the old man was concentrating on what he was doing. Still holding the bird aloft, he led the beast slowly around till it was once more parallel with the motion of its herd. He moved forward. The beast followed. He moved forward again. The beast followed again. At last, the beast was lumbering forward with a little momentum. "I said you never mentioned a king," shouted Arthur again. "I didn't say a king," shouted old Thrashbarg. "I said the king." He drew back his arms and then hurled it forward with all his strength, casting the peekabird up into the air above the herd. This seemed to catch the peekabird completely by surprise, as it had obviously not been paying any attention at all to what was going on. It took it a moment or two to work out what was happening, then it unfurled its little wings, spread them out, and flew. "Go!" shouted Thrashbarg. "Go and meet your destinies, sandwich maker!" Arthur wasn't so sure about wanting to meet this destiny as such. He just wanted to get to wherever it was they were going so he could get back off this creature again. And in feel at all safe up there. The beast was gathering speed as it followed in the wake of the peekabird. And then it was in the fringes of the great tide of animals. And in a moment or two, with its head down, the peekabird forgotten, it was running with the herd again, and rapidly approaching the point at which the herd was vanishing into thin air. Arthur and Ford held on to the great monster for dear life, surrounded on all sides by hurtling mountains of bodies. "No, ride the beast!" shouted Thrashbark, his distant voice reverberating faintly in their ears. "Ride that perfectly normal beast! Ride it! Ride it!" Ford shouted in Arthur's ears. "Where did he say we were going?" "He said something about a king," shouted Arthur in return, holding on desperately. "King. That's what I said. He just said the king." "I don't know." "I didn't know there was the king," shouted Ford. "Nor did I," shouted Arthur back. "Except, of course, for the king," shouted Ford, "and I don't suppose he meant him." "What king?" shouted Arthur. The point of exit was almost upon them. Just ahead of them, perfectly normal beasts were galloping into nothingness and vanishing. "What do you mean, what king?" shouted Ford. "I don't know what king. I'm only saying that he couldn't possibly mean the king, so I don't know what he means." "Ford, I don't know what you're talking about." "So?" said Ford. Then with a sudden rush, the stars came on, turned and twisted around their heads, and then, just as suddenly, turned off again. Chapter 21. Misty gray buildings loomed and flickered. They bounced up and down in a highly embarrassing way. What sort of buildings were they? What were they for? What did they remind her of? It's so difficult to know what things are supposed to be when you suddenly turn up unexpectedly on a different world, which was a different culture, a different set of the most basic assumptions about life, and also incredibly dull and meaningless architecture. "Aw, thanks, Anthony." The sky above the buildings was a cold and hostile black. The stars, which should have been blindingly brilliant points of light this far from the sun, were blurred and dulled by the thickness of the huge shielding bubble. Perspex or something like it, something dull and heavy anyways. Trisha wound the tape back again to the beginning. She knew there was something slightly odd about it. Well, in fact, there were about a million things that were slightly odd about it, but there was one that was nagging at her, and she hadn't quite got it. She sighed and yawned. As she waited for the tape to rewind, she cleared away some of the dirty, polystyrene coffee cups that had accumulated on the editing desk and tipped them into the bin. She was sitting in a small editing suite at a video production company in Soho. She had "Do Not Disturb" notices plastered all over the door, and a block on all incoming calls at the switchboard. This was originally to protect her astonishing scoop, but now it was to protect her from embarrassment. She would watch the tape all the way through again from the beginning. If she could bear to, she might do some fast-forwarding here and there. It was about 4 o'clock on Monday afternoon, and she had a kind of sick feeling. She was trying to work out what the cause of this slightly sick feeling was, and there was no shortage of candidates. First of all, it had all come on top of the overnight flight from New York, the red-eye, always a killer that. Then being accosted by aliens on her lawn and flown to the planet Rupert. She was not sufficiently experienced in that sort of thing to be able to say for sure that that was always a killer, but she would be prepared to bet that those who went through it regularly cursed it. There were always stress charts being published in magazines. 50 stress points for losing your job, 75 points for a divorce or changing your hairstyle, and so on. None of them ever mentioned being accosted on your lawn by aliens and then being flown to the planet Rupert, but she was sure it was worth a few dozen points. It wasn't that the journey had been particularly stressful. It had been extremely dull, in fact. Certainly, it had been no more stressful than the trip she had just taken across the Atlantic, and it had taken roughly the same time, about 7 hours. Well, that was pretty astounding, wasn't it? Flying to outer limits of the solar system in the same time that it took to fly to New York. They must have had some fantastic, unheard-of form of propulsion in the ship. She quizzed her hosts about it, and they agreed that it was pretty good. But how does it work? She had demanded excitedly. She was still quite excited at the beginning of the trip. She found that part of the tape and played it through to herself. The Grabulons, which is what they called themselves, were politely showing her which buttons they pressed to make the ship go. Yes, but what principle does it work on? She heard herself demand from behind the camera. Oh, you mean, is it something like a warp drive or something like that? They said. Yes, persisted Trisha. What is it? It probably is something of the kind, they said. Like what? Warp drive, photon drive, something like that. You'd have to ask the flight engineer. Which one is he? We don't know. We have all lost our minds, you see. Oh, yes, said Trisha, a little faintly. So you said, how did you lose your minds exactly, then? We don't know, they said patiently. Because you've lost your minds, echoed Trisha glumly. Would you like to watch television? It is a long flight. We watch television. It is something we enjoy. All this riveting stuff on the tape, the fine viewing it made. First of all, the picture quality was extremely poor. Trisha didn't know why this was exactly. She had a feeling that the Grabulons responded to a slightly different range of light frequencies, and that there had been a lot of ultraviolet around, which was mucking up the video camera. There were a lot of interference patterns in video snow as well, probably something to do with the warp drive that none of them knew the first thing about. So what she had on tape, essentially, was a bunch of slightly thin and discolored people sitting around watching televisions that were showing network broadcasts. She had also pointed the camera out of the very tiny viewport near her seat and got a nice, slightly streaky effect of stars. She knew it was real, but it would have taken a good 3 or 4 minutes to fake. In the end, she had decided to save her precious videotape for Rupert itself and had simply sat back and watched television with them. She even dozed off for a while. So part of her sick feeling came from the sense that she had had all that time in an alien spacecraft of astounding technological design, and had spent most of it dozing in front of reruns of MASH and Cagney and Lacey, but what else was there to do? She had taken some photos as well, of course, all of which had subsequently turned out to be badly fogged when she got them back from the chemist. Another part of her sick feeling probably came from the landing on Rupert. This at least had been dramatic and hair-raising. The ship had been sweeping in over a dark and somber landscape, a terrain so desperately far removed from the heat and light of its parent sun, Sol, that it seemed like a map of the psychological scars of the mind of an abandoned child. Lights blazed through the frozen darkness and guided the ship into the mouth of some kind of cave that seemed to bend itself open to accept the small craft. Unfortunately, because of the angle of their approach and the depth at which the small, thick viewport was set into the craft's skin, it hadn't been possible to get a video camera to point directly at any of it. She ran through that bit of tape, and the camera was pointing directly at the sun. This is normally very bad for a video camera, but when the sun is roughly 1/3 of a billion miles away, it doesn't do any harm. In fact, it hardly makes any impression at all. You just get a small point of light right in the middle of the frame, which could be just about anything. There was just one star in a multitude. Trisha fast-forwarded. Now the next bit had been quite promising. They had emerged out of the ship into a vast, gray, hangar-like structure. This was clearly alien technology on a dramatic scale. Huge gray buildings under the dark canopy of the Perspex bubble. These were the same buildings that she had been looking at the end of the tape. She had taken more footage of them while leaving Rupert a few hours later, just as she was about to reboard the spacecraft for the journey home. What did they remind her of? Hey Adrian, wasabi. Wasabi, kimosabi. Well, as much as anything else, they reminded her of a film set from just about any low-budget science fiction movie of the last 20 years. A lot larger, of course, but it all looked thoroughly tawdry and unconvincing on the video screen. Apart from the dreadful picture quality, she had been struggling with the unexpected effects of gravity that was appreciably lower than on Earth. And she had found it very hard to keep the camera from bouncing around in an embarrassingly unprofessional way. It was therefore impossible to make out any detail. And now here was the leader coming forward to greet her, smiling and sticking his hand out. That was all he was called, the leader. None of the Grebulons had names, largely because they couldn't think of any. Trisha discovered that some of them had thought of calling themselves after characters from television programs they had picked up from Earth. But hard as they had tried to call each other Wayne and Bobby and Chuck, some remnant of something lurking deep in the cultural subconscious they had brought with them from the distant stars that were their home must have told them that this really wasn't right and wouldn't do. The leader looked pretty much like all the others, possibly a bit less thin. He said how much he enjoyed her shows on TV, that he was her greatest fan, how glad he was that she had been able to come along and visit them on Rupert, and how much everybody had been looking forward to her coming, how he hoped the flight had been comfortable, and so on. There was no particular sense she could detect of being any kind of emissary from the stars or anything. Certainly, watching it now on videotape, he just looked like some guy in costume and makeup, standing in front of a set that wouldn't hold up too well if you leaned against it. She sat staring at the screen with her face cradled in her hands and shaking her head in slow bewilderment. This was awful. Not only was this bit awful, but she knew what was coming next. It was the bit where the leader asked if she was hungry after the flight, and would she perhaps like to come and have something to eat. They could discuss things over a little dinner. She could remember what she was thinking at this point. Alien food. How was she going to deal with it? Would she actually have to eat it? Would she have access to some sort of paper napkin she could spit stuff into? Wouldn't there be all sorts of differential immunity problems? It turned out to be hamburgers. Not only did it turn out to be hamburgers, but the hamburgers it turned out to be were very clearly and obviously McDonald's hamburgers, which had been reheated in a microwave. It wasn't just the look of them, it was just the smell. It was the polystyrene clamshell packages they came in, which had McDonald's printed all over them. "Eat, enjoy," said the leader. "Nothing is too good for our honored guest." This was in his private apartment. Trisha looked around in bewilderment that had bordered on fear, but had nevertheless got it all on videotape. The apartment had a waterbed in it, and MIDI hi-fi, and one of those tall electrically illuminated glass things that sit on tabletops and appear to have large globules of sperm floating in them. The walls were covered in velvet. The leader lounged against a brown corduroy beanbag chair and squirted breath freshener into his mouth. Trisha began to feel very scared suddenly. She was further from Earth than any human being, to her knowledge, had ever been, and she was with an alien creature who was lounging against a brown corduroy beanbag and squirting breath freshener into his mouth. She didn't want to make any false moves, she didn't want to alarm him, but there were things she had to know. Where did you get this?" she asked, gesturing around the room nervously. "The decor?" asked the leader. "Do you like it? It is very sophisticated. We are a sophisticated people, we Grebulons." We buy sophisticated consumer durables by mail order. Trisha had nodded tremendously slowly at this point. Mail order? She had said. The leader chuckled. It was one of those dark chocolate, reassuring, sickly chuckles. I think you think they shipped here. No, we have arranged a special box number in New Hampshire. We make regular pickup visits. He lounged back in a relaxed fashion on his beanbag, reached for a reheated French fry and nibbled the end of it, an amused smile playing across his lips. Trisha could feel her brain beginning to bubble very slightly. She kept the video camera going. How do you pay for these wonderful things? The leader chuckled again. American Express, he said, with a nonchalant shrug. Trisha nodded slowly again. She knew that they gave cars exclusively to just about anybody. And these? She said, holding up the hamburger he had presented with her. It's very easy, said the leader. We stand in line. Again, Trisha realized, with a cold, trickling feeling going down her spine, that explained an awful lot. She hit the fast-forward button again. There was nothing of any use here at all. It was all nightmarish madness. She could have faked something that would have looked more convincing. Another sick feeling began to creep over her as she watched this hopeless, awful tape, and she began, with slow horror, to realize that it must be the answer. She must be. She shook her head and tried to get a grip. An overnight flight going east, the sleeping pills she had taken to get her through it, the vodka she'd had to set the sleeping pills going. What else? Well, there was 17 years of obsession that a glamorous man with two heads, one of which was disguised as a parrot in a cage, had tried to pick her up at a party but had been impatiently flown off to another planet in a flying saucer. There suddenly seemed to be all sorts of bothersome aspects to that idea that had really never occurred to her. Never occurred to her in 17 years. She stuffed her fist into her mouth. She must get help. Then there had been Eric Bartlett banging on about alien spacecraft landing on our lawn, and before that, New York had been, well, very hot and stressful. The high hopes and the bitter disappointment, the astrology stuff. She must have had a nervous breakdown. That was it. She was exhausted, and she had had a nervous breakdown and had started hallucinating sometime after she got home. She had dreamed the whole story. An alien race of people dispossessed of their own lives and histories, stuck on a remote outpost of our solar system and filling their cultural vacuum with our cultural junk. It was nature's way of telling her to check into an expensive medical establishment very quickly. She was very, very sick. She looked at how many large coffees she'd got through as well and realized how heavily she was breathing and how fast. Part of solving any problem, she told herself, was realizing that you had it. She started to bring her breathing under control. She had caught herself in time. She had seen where she was. She was on the way back from whatever psychological precipice she had been on the brink of. She started to calm down, to calm down, to calm down. She sat back in the chair and closed her eyes. After a while, now that she was breathing normally again, she opened them again. So where had she got this tape from then? It was still running. Alright, it was a fake. She had faked it herself, that was it. It must have been her who had faked it because her voice was all over the soundtrack asking questions. Every now and then the camera would swing down at the end of a shot and she would see her own feet in her own shoes. She had faked it, and she had no recollection of faking it or any idea of why she had done it. Her breathing was getting hectic again as she watched the snowy, flickering screen. She must still be hallucinating. She shook her head, trying to make it go away. She had no memory of faking any of this very obviously fake stuff. On the other hand, she did seem to have memories that were very like the fake stuff. She continued to watch in a bewildered trance. The person she imagined to be called the leader was questioning her about astrology, and she was answering smoothly and calmly. Only she could detect the well-disguised rising panic in her own voice. The leader pushed a button, and a maroon velvet wall slid aside, revealing a large bank of flat TV monitors. Each of the monitors was showing a kaleidoscope of different images. A few seconds from a game show, a few seconds from a cop show, a few seconds from a supermarket warehouse security system, a few seconds from somebody's holiday movies, a few seconds of sex, a few seconds of news, a few seconds of comedy. It was clear that the leader was very proud of all this stuff, and he was waving his hands like a conductor while continuing at the same time to talk complete gibberish. Another wave of his hands and all the screens cleared to form one giant computer screen, showing in a diagrammatic form all the planets of the solar system, mapped out against a background of the stars on their constellations. The display was completely static. "We have great skills," the leader was saying. "Great skills in computation, in cosmological trigonometry, in three-dimensional navigational calculus. Great skills, great skills. Only we have lost them. It is too bad. We like to have skills, only they have gone. They are in space somewhere, hurtling, with our names and details of our homes and loved ones. Please," he said, gesturing her forward to sit at the computer's console. "Be skillful for us." Obviously, what happened next was that Trisha quickly set the video camera up on its tripod to capture the whole scene. She then walked into the shot herself and sat down calmly in front of the giant computer display. Spent a few moments familiarizing herself with the interface, and then started smoothly and competently to pretend that she had the faintest idea what she was doing. It hadn't been too difficult, in fact. She was, after all, a mathematician and astrophysicist by training and a television presenter by experience, and what science she had forgotten over the years, she was more than capable of making up by bluffing. The computer she was working on was clear evidence that the Grabulons came from a far more advanced and sophisticated culture than their current vacuous state suggested, and with its aid she was able, within about half an hour, to cobble together a rough working model of the solar system. It was particularly accurate or anything, but it looked good. The planets were whizzing around in reasonably good simulations of their orbits. You can watch the movement of the whole piece of virtual cosmological clockwork from any point within the system, very roughly. You could watch from Earth, you could watch from Mars, etc. You can watch from the surface of the planet Rupert. Trisha had been quite impressed with herself, but also very impressed with the computer system she was working on. The task would probably have taken a year or so of programming using a computer workstation on Earth. When she was finished, the leader came up behind her and watched. He was very pleased and delighted with what she had achieved. "Good," he said. "And now please, I would like you to demonstrate how to use the system you have just designed. Translate the information in this book for me." Quietly, he put a book down in front of her. It was You and Your Planets by Gil Andrews. Trisha stopped the tape again. She was definitely feeling very wobbly indeed. The feeling that she was hallucinating had now receded, but had not left anything any easier or clearer in her head. She pushed her seat back from the editing desk and wondered what to do. Years ago, she had left the field of astronomical research because she knew, without any doubt whatsoever, that she had met a being from another planet at a party. And she had also known without any doubt whatsoever that she would have made herself a laughingstock if she had ever said so. But how could she study cosmology and not say anything about the single most important thing she knew about it? She had done the only thing she could do. She had left. Now she worked in television, and the same thing happened again. She had videotape, actual videotape, of the most astounding story in the history of, well, anything. A forgotten outpost of an alien civilization marooned on the outermost planet of our own solar system. She had the story. She had been there. She had seen it. She had the videotape, for God's sake, and if she ever showed it to anybody, she would be a laughingstock. How could she prove any of this? It wasn't even worth thinking about. The whole thing was a nightmare from virtually any angle she cared to look at it from. Her head was beginning to throb. She had some aspirin in her bag. She went out of the little editing suite to the water dispenser down the corridor. She took the aspirin and drank several cups of water. The place seemed to be very quiet. Usually there were more people bustling about the place, or at least some people bustling about the place. She popped her head around the door of the editing suite next to hers, but there was no one there. She had gone rather overboard keeping people out of her own suite. "Do not disturb," the notice read. "Do not even think of entering. I don't care what it is. Go away, I'm busy." When she went back in, she noticed that the message light on her phone extension was winking and wondered how long it had been on. "Hello," she said to the receptionist. "Oh, Miss McMillan, I'm so glad you called. Everybody's been trying to reach you." "Your TV company? They're desperate to reach you. Can you call them?" "Why didn't you put them through?" said Tricia. "You said I wasn't to put anybody through for anything. You said I was to not deny that you were even here. I didn't know what to do. I come up to give you a message, but..." "Okay," said Tricia, cursing herself. She phoned her office. "Tricia, where the hemorrhaging fuck are you?" At the editing, they said, "I know, what's up?" "What's up?" "Only a bloody alien spaceship." "What? Where?" "Regent's Park. Big silver job. Some girl with a bird. She speaks English and throws rocks at people and wants someone to repair her watch. Just get there." Tricia stared at it. It was a Grebulon ship. Not that she was suddenly an expert on extraterrestrial craft, but this was a sleek and beautiful silver and white thing about the size of a large ocean-going yacht, which is what it most resembled. Next to this, the structures of the huge, half-dismantled Grebulon ship looked like a gun turret on a battleship. Gun turrets. That's what those blank gray buildings had looked like. And what was odd about them was that by the time she had passed them again on her way to reboarding the small Grebulon craft, they had moved. These things flitted briefly through her head as she ran from the taxi to meet her camera crew. "Where's the girl?" she shouted above the noise of the helicopters and police sirens. "There!" shouted the producer, while the sound engineer hurried to clip a radio mic to her. "She says her mother and father came from here on some parallel dimension or something like that, and she's got her father's watch and, I don't know, what can I tell you? Busk it. Ask her what it feels like to be from outer space." "Thanks a lot, Ted," muttered Tricia. She checked that her mic was securely clipped, gave the engineer some level, took a deep breath, tossed her hair back, and switched into her role of professional reporter on home ground, ready for anything. At least, nearly anything. She turned to look for the girl. That must be her, with the wild hair and wild eyes. The girl turned toward her and stared. "Mother!" she screamed and started to hurl rocks at Tricia. Chapter 22. Daylight exploded around them. Hot, heavy sun. A desert plain stretched out ahead in a haze of heat. They thundered out into it. "Jump!" shouted Ford Prefect. "What?" shouted Arthur Dent, holding on for dear life. There was no reply. "What did you say?" shouted Arthur again, and then realized that Ford was no longer there. He looked around in panic and started to slip. Realizing he couldn't hold on any longer, he pushed himself sideways as hard as he could and rolled into a ball as he hit the ground, rolling away from the pounding hooves. What a day, he thought, as he started furiously coughing dust up out of his lungs. He hadn't had a day as bad as this since the earth had been blown up. He staggered up to his knees and then up to his feet and started to run away. He didn't know what from or what to, but running away seemed a prudent move. He ran straight into Ford Prefect, who was standing there surveying the scene. "Look," said Ford. "That is precisely what we need." Arthur coughed up some more dust and wiped some other dust out of his hair and eyes. He turned, panting, to look at what Ford was looking at. It didn't look like the domain of a king or the king or any kind of king. It looked quite inviting, though. First, the context. This was a desert world. The dusty earth was packed hard and had neatly bruised every last bit of Arthur that hadn't been already bruised by the festivities of the previous night. Some way ahead of them were great cliffs that looked like sandstone, eroded by the wind and what little rain presumably fell in these parts into wild and fantastic shapes, which matched the fantastic shapes of the giant cacti that sprouted here and there from the arid orange landscape. For a moment, Arthur dared to hope they had unexpectedly arrived in Arizona or New Mexico or maybe South Dakota, but there was plenty of evidence that this was not the case. Perfectly normal beasts, for a start, were still thundering, still pounding. They swept up in their tens of thousands from the far horizon, disappeared completely for about half a mile, then swept off, thundering and pounding, to the distant horizon opposite. Then there were the spaceships parked in front of the bar and grill. Ah, the domain of the king bar and grill. Bit of an anticlimax, thought Arthur to himself. In fact, only one of the spaceships was parked in front of the domain of the king bar and grill. The other three were in a parking lot by the side of the bar and grill. It was the one in front that caught the eye, though. Wonderful looking thing, wild fins all over it, far too much chrome all over the fins, and most of the actual bodywork painted in a shocking pink. It crouched there like an immense brooding insect and looked as if it was at any moment about to jump on something about a mile away. The domain of the King Bar and Grill was slap bang in the middle of where the perfectly normal beasts would be charging if they didn't take a minor transdimensional diversion on the way. It stood on its own, undisturbed, an ordinary bar and grill, a truck stop diner, somewhere in the middle of nowhere, quiet. The domain of the king. "Gonna buy that spaceship," said Ford quietly. "Buy it?" said Arthur. "That's not like you. I thought you usually pinched them." "Sometimes you have to show a little respect," said Ford. "Probably have to show a little cash as well," said Arthur. How much is that thing worth?" With a tiny movement, Ford brought his Dino Charge credit card up out of his pocket. Arthur noticed that the hand holding it was trembling very slightly. "I'll teach them to make me the restaurant critic," breathed Ford. Well, on that note, let's go to our first music break. On this break, we got your favorite, Adrian. We got Miss Mia Savage, her group Antidote for Savages, and she will be singing Your Skeleton, Arnie Reality, Let Me Be Your Home, and Lemurian Crypto. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break. Welcome back, and thanks so much for hanging out tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. We've been finishing up the very last book in the series of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's been quite interesting, I must say. I don't think this is my favorite book out of the series, but it's been pretty intriguing, I must say. It's been pretty interesting. I don't know, let's get back to it. What do you mean? Asked Arthur. I'll show you, said Ford with a nasty glint in his eye. Let's go and run up a few expenses, shall we? Couple beers, said Ford, and I don't know, a couple bacon rolls, whatever you got, and that pink thing outside. He flipped his card on the top of the bar and looked around casually. There was a kind of silence. There hadn't been a lot of noise before, but there was definitely a kind of silence now. Even the distant thunder of the perfectly normal beast carefully avoiding the domain of the king seemed suddenly a little muted. Just rode into town, said Ford, as if nothing was odd about that or about anything else. He was leaning against the bar at an extravagantly relaxed angle. Let's turn this down just a smidge, shall we? Okay, I think that's a bit better. There were about 3 other customers in the place sitting at tables, nursing beers. About 3. Some people would say there were exactly 3, but it wasn't that kind of a place. Not the kind of a place that you felt like being that specific in. There was some big guy setting up some stuff on the little stage as well. Old drum kit, a couple guitars, country and western kind of stuff. The barman was not moving very swiftly to get in Ford's order. In fact, he wasn't moving at all. Not sure that the pink thing's for sale, he said at last in the kind of accent that went on for quite a long time. There it is, said Ford. How much you want? Well, think of a number. I'll double it. Tain't mine to sell, said the barman. So whose? The barman nodded at the big guy setting up on the stage. Big, fat guy moving slow and balding. Ford nodded. He grinned. Okay, he said. Get the beers, get the rolls, keep the tab open. Arthur sat at the bar and rested. He was used to not knowing what was going on. He felt comfortable with it. The beer was pretty good and made him a little sleepy, which he didn't mind at all. The bacon rolls were not bacon rolls. They were perfectly normal beast rolls. He exchanged a few professional roll-making remarks with the barman and just let Ford get on with whatever Ford wanted to do. Okay, said Ford, returning to his stool. It's cool. We got the pink thing. The barman was very surprised. He's selling it to you? He's giving it to us for free, said Ford, taking a gnaw at his roll. Hey, no, keep the tab open, though. We have some items to add to it. Roll. Took a deep pull of the beer. Good beer, he added. Good ship, too, he said, eyeing the big pink and chrome insect-like thing, bits of which could be seen through the windows of the bar. Good everything, pretty much, you know, he said, sitting back reflectively. It's at times like this that you kind of wonder if it's worth worrying about the fabric of space and time and the casual integrity of the multidimensional probability matrix and the potential collapse and all that sort of stuff that's been bugging me. I feel that what the big guy says is right. Just let it all go. What does it matter? Let it go. Which big guy? Said Arthur. Ford just nodded toward the stage. The big guy was saying 1, 2 into the mic a couple times. A couple other guys were on the stage now. Drums, guitar. The barman, who had been silent for a moment or two, said, You say he's letting you have his ship? Yeah, said Ford. Let it all go, is what he said. Take the ship. Take it with my blessing. Be good to her. I will be good to her. He took a pull at his beer again. Like I was saying, he went on, it's at times like this that you kind of think, let it all go. But then you think of guys like Infidem Enterprises and you think, they're not going to get away with it. They're going to suffer. It's my sacred and holy duty to see those guys suffer. Here, let me put something on the tab for the singer. asked for a special request and we agreed. It's to go on the tab, okay? Okay, said the barman cautiously, then he shrugged. Okay, however you want to do it, how much? Ford named a figure. The barman fell over among the bottles and glasses. Ford vaulted quickly over the bar to check that he was all right and help him back up to his feet. He cut his finger and his elbow a bit and was feeling a little woozy, but was otherwise fine. The big guy started to sing. The bartender hobbled off with Ford's credit card to get authorization. Is there stuff going on here that I don't know about? Said Arthur to Ford. Isn't there usually? Said Ford. No need to be like that, said Arthur. He began to wake up. Shouldn't we be going? He said suddenly. Will that ship get us to Earth? Sure will, said Ford. That's where, Random will be going, said Arthur with a start. We can follow her, but, Ford let Arthur get on with thinking things out for himself while he got his old edition of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But where are we on the probability access thing? Said Arthur. Will the F be there or not there? I spent so much time looking for it. All I found was planets that were a bit time looking for it, like not at all like it, though it was clearly the right place because of the continents. The worst version was called Now What, where I got bitten by some wretched little animal. That's how they communicated, by biting each other. Bloody painful. Then half the time, of course, the Earth isn't even there because it's been blown up by the bloody Vogons. Since I'm making... Ford didn't comment. He was listening to something. He passed the guide over to Arthur and pointed at the screen. The active entry read, Earth, mostly harmless. You mean it's there? Said Arthur, excitedly. The Earth is there. That's where Random will be going. The bird was showing her the Earth in the rainstorm. Ford motioned Arthur to shout a little less loudly. He was listening. Arthur was growing impatient. He's heard bar singers sing Love Me Tender before. He was a bit surprised to hear it here, right in the middle of wherever the hell this was. Certainly not Earth, but then things tended not to surprise him these days as much as formerly. Singer was quite good, as bar singers went, if you liked that sort of thing, but Arthur was getting fretful. He glanced at his watch. This only served to remind him that he didn't have his watch anymore. Random had it, or at least the remains of it. Don't you think we should be going? He said insistently. Said Ford. I paid to hear this song. He seemed to have tears in his eyes, which Arthur found a bit disturbing. He'd never seen Ford moved by anything other than very, very strong drink, probably the dust. He waited, tapping his fingers irritably, out of time with the music. The song ended. The singer went on to do Heartbreak Hotel. Anyway, Ford whispered, I've got to review the restaurant. What? I have to write a review. Write a review of this place? Filing the review validates the expenses claim. I've fixed it so that it happens completely automatically and untraceably. This bill is going to need some validation, he added quietly, staring into his beer with a nasty smirk. For a couple of beers and a roll. And a tip for the singer. Why, how much did you tip him? Ford named a figure again. I don't know how much that is, said Arthur. What's it worth in pounds sterling? What would it buy you? It would probably buy you roughly Ford screwed his eyes up as he did some calculations in his head. Switzerland, he said at last. He packed up his Hitchhiker's Guide and started to type. Arthur nodded intelligently. There were times when he wished he understood what on earth Ford was talking about, and other times, like now, when he felt it was probably safer not even to try. He looked over Ford's shoulder. This isn't going to take long, is it? He said. Nah, said Ford. Piece of piss. Just mention that the rolls were quite good and the beer good and cold, local wildlife, nicely eccentric, the bar singer, the best in the known universe, and that's about it. Doesn't need much, just a validation. He touched an area on the screen marked Enter, and the message vanished into the sub-ether. You might have thought the singer was pretty good then, Yeah, said Ford. The barman was returning with a piece of paper, which seemed to be trembling in his hand. He pushed it over to Ford with a kind of nervous, reverential twitch. Funny thing, said the barman. System rejected it. First couple times. Can't say it surprised me. Beads of sweat were standing on his brow. Then suddenly, oh yeah, that's okay, and the system validates it. Just like that. You want to sign it? Ford scanned the firm quickly. He sucked his teeth. This is going to hurt Infinitum a lot, he said with an appearance of concern. Oh well, he said softly. Screw him. He signed with a flourish and handed it back to the barman. More money, he said, than the Colonel made for him in an entire career of doing crap movies and casino gigs. Just for doing what he does best, standing up and singing in a bar. He negotiated it himself. I think this is a good moment for him. Tell him I said thanks and buy him a drink. He tossed a few coins on the bar. The barman pushed them away. I don't think that's necessary, he said, slightly hoarsely. 'Tis to me, said Ford. Okay, we're out of here. They stood out in the heat and the dust and looked at the big pink and chrome thing with amazement and admiration, or at least Ford looked at it with amazement and admiration. Arthur just looked at it. You don't think it's a bit overdone, do you? He said it again. When they climbed inside, the seats and quite a lot of controls were covered in fine fur skin or suede. There was a big gold monogram on the main control panel which just read EP. You know, said Ford as he fired up the ship's engines. I asked him if it was true that he had been abducted by aliens, and you know what he said? Who? Said Arthur. The king. Which king? Oh, we've had this conversation, haven't we? Never mind, said Ford. For what it's worth, he said no. He went of his own accord. I'm still not sure who we're talking about, said Arthur. Ford shook his head. Look, he said, there are some tapes over in the compartment to your left. Why don't you choose some music and put it on? Okay, said Arthur and flipped through the cartons. Do you like Elvis Presley? He said. Yeah, I do, as a matter of fact, said Ford. Now, I hope this machine can leap like it looks like it can. Engage the main drive. Yeehaw! Shouted Ford as they shot upward at face-tearing speed. They could. Chapter 23.
Hey, Mom. What's the password to your Microsoft account? It logs me out.
I think Paradox 181 with an exclamation point. Maybe not.
So the account, like the Gmail, is...
How about you take a shower and I'll fix it when I come out?
I'll do it at 9, please. I take showers quick.
Okay, well, let me try what I told you, but I don't know if it's gonna work.
Capital.
Go on now.
A capital key?
I'll try with a capital and try it without.
Okay.
The news networks don't like this kind of thing. They regard it as a waste. An incontrovertible spaceship arrives out of nowhere in the middle of London, and it is sensational news of the highest magnitude. Another completely different one arrives 3.5 hours later, and somehow it isn't. Another spacecraft, said the headlines and newsstand billboards. This one's pink. A couple of months later, they could have made a lot more of it. The third spacecraft, half an hour after that, the little four-berth Grundy runabout, only made it onto the local news. Ford and Arthur had come screaming down out of the stratosphere and parked neatly on Portland Place. It was just after 6:30 in the evening and there were spaces free. They mingled briefly with the crowd that gathered around to ogle, and said loudly that if no one else was going to call the police, they would, and made good their escape. Home, said Arthur, a husky tone creeping into his voice as he gazed misty-eyed around him. Oh, don't get all maudlin on me, snapped Ford. We have to find your daughter, and we have to find that bird thing. Oh, said Arthur, this is a planet of 5.5 billion people, and... Yes, said Ford, but only one of them has just arrived from outer space in a large silver spaceship accompanied by a mechanical bird. I suggest we just find a television and something to drink while we watch it. We need some serious room service. They checked into a large two-bedroom suite at the Langham. Mysteriously, Ford's Dino Charge card, issued on a planet over 5,000 light-years away, seemed to present the hotel's computer with no problems. Ford hit the phone straight away while Arthur attempted to locate the television. "Okay," said Ford. "I want to order up some margaritas, please. Couple of pitchers, couple of chef salads, and as much foie gras as you've got, and also London Zoo." "She's on the news," shouted Arthur from the next room. "That's what I said," said Ford into the phone. "London Zoo. Just charge it to the room. She's..." "Good God," shouted Arthur. "Do you know who she's being interviewed by?" "Are you having difficulty understanding the English language?" continued Ford. "It's the zoo, just up the road from here. I don't care if it's closed this evening. I don't want to buy a ticket. I just want to buy the zoo. I don't care if you're busy. This is room service. I'm in a room, and I want service. Got a piece of paper? Okay. Here's what I want you to do. All the animals that can be safely returned to the wild, return them. Set up some good teams of people to monitor their progress in the wild and see what they're doing, okay?" "It's Trillion," shouted Arthur. "Or is it, God, I can't stand all this parallel universe stuff. It's so bloody confusing. It seems to be a different Trillion. It's Trisha McMillian, which is what Trillion used to be called before, Why don't you come and watch? See if you can figure it out." "Just a second," Ford shouted, and returned to his negotiations with room service. "The animal needs some natural reserves for the animals that can't hack it in the wild," he said. "Set up a team to work out the best places to do that. We might need to buy somewhere like Zaire and maybe some islands. Madagascar, Affine, Sumatra, those kind of places. We'll need a wide variety of habitats. Look, I don't see why you're seeing this as a problem. Learn to delegate. Hire whoever you want. Get onto it. I think you'll find my credit is good, and blue cheese dressing on the salad. Thank you." He put the phone down and went through to Arthur, who was sitting on the edge of his bed watching television. "He ordered us some foie gras." "What?" said Arthur, whose attention was entirely focused on the television. "I said I ordered some foie gras." "Oh," said Arthur vaguely. I always feel a bit bad about foie gras. Cruel to the geese, isn't it?" "Fuck 'em," said Ford, slumping on the bed. "You can't care about every damn thing." "Well, that's all very well for you to say, but..." "Drop it," said Ford. "If you don't like it, I'll have yours. What's happening?" "Chaos," said Arthur. "Complete chaos. Random keeps screaming at Trillion or Trisha or whoever it is that she abandoned her and then demanding to go to a good nightclub. She's just broken down in tears and says she's never even met Random, let alone given birth to her. Then she suddenly started howling about someone called Rupert and said that he had lost his mind or something. I didn't quite follow that bit, to be honest. Then Random started throwing stuff, and they've cut to a commercial break while they try and sort it out. Oh, they've just cut back to the studio. Shut up and watch." The rather shaken anchorman appeared on the screen and apologized to the viewers for the disruption of the previous item. He said he didn't have any clear news to report, only that the mysterious girl who called herself Random Frequent Flyer Dent had left the studio to rest. Trisha McMillan would be, he hoped, back tomorrow. Meanwhile, fresh reports of UFO activity were coming in. Ford leapt up off the bed, grabbed the nearest phone, and jabbed out a number. "Concierge? You want to own the hotel? It's yours if you can find out for me in 5 minutes which clubs Trisha McMillan belongs to. Just charge the whole thing to this room." Chapter 24. Away in the inky depths of space, invisible movements were being made. Invisible to any of the inhabitants of the strange and temperamental plural zone, at the focus of which lay the infinitely multitudinous possibilities of the planet called Earth, but not consequential to them. the very edge of the solar system, hunkered down on a green leatherette sofa, staring fretfully at a range of TV and computer screens, sat a very worried Grebulon leader, who was fiddling with stuff, fiddling with his book on astrology, fiddling with the console of his computer, fiddling with the displays being fed through to him constantly from all of the Grebulon's monitoring devices, all of them focused on the planet Earth. He was distressed. Their mission was to monitor, but to monitor secretly. He was a bit fed up with this mission, to be honest. He is fairly certain that his mission must have to do more than sit around watching TV for years on end. They certainly had a lot of other equipment with them that must have had some purpose if only they hadn't accidentally lost all trace of their purpose. He needed a sense of purpose in life, which was why he had turned to astrology to fill the yawning gulf that existed in the middle of his mind and soul. That would tell him something, surely. Well, it was telling him something. It was telling him, as far as he could make out, that he was about to have a very bad month, that things were going to go from bad to worse if he didn't get a grip on things and start making some positive moves and think things out for himself. It was true. It was very clear from his star chart, which he had worked out using his astrology book and the computer program which that nice Trisha McMillan had designed for him to re-triangulate all the appropriate astronomical data. Earth-based astrology had to be entirely recalculated to yield results that were meaningful to the Grebulons here on the 10th planet, out on the frozen edges of the solar system. The recalculation showed absolutely clearly and unambiguously that he was going to have a very bad month indeed, starting with today, because today Earth was starting to rise into Capricorn, and that, for the Grebulon leader, who showed all the character signs of being a classic Taurus, was very bad indeed. This was all very distressing for him, but he knew that he had to start taking positive action. He ordered the turrets to swivel, because all of the Grebulon's surveillance equipment was focused on the planet Earth. It failed to spot that there was now another source of data in the solar system. Its chances of accidentally spotting this other source of data, a massive yellow constructor ship, were practically nil. It was as far from the sun as Rupert was, but almost diametrically opposite, almost hidden by the sun. Almost. The massive yellow constructor ship wanted to be able to monitor events on Planet 10 without being spotted itself. It had managed this very successfully. There were all sorts of other ways in which this ship was diametrically opposite to the Grebulons. Its leader, its captain, had a very clear idea of what his purpose was. It was a very simple and plain one, and he had been pursuing it in his simple plain way for a considerable period of time now. Anyone who knew of his purpose might have said that it was a pointless and ugly one, that it wasn't the sort of purpose that enhanced a life, but a spring in a person's step, made birds sing and flowers bloom. Rather the reverse, in fact. Absolutely the reverse. It wasn't his job to worry about that, though. It was his job to do his job, which was to do his job. If that led to a certain narrowness of vision and calculatory circularity of thought, then it wasn't his job to worry about such things. Any such things that came his way were referred to others, who had in turn other people to refer things to. Many, many light years from here, indeed, from anywhere, lies the grim and long abandoned planet of Wogsphere. Somewhere on a fetid, fog-bound mud bank on this planet there stands, surrounded by the dirty, broken, and empty carapaces of the last few jeweled, scuttled crabs, a small stone monument which marks the place where, it is thought, the species Vogon vogombrurtus first arose. On the monument there is carved an arrow which points away into the fog, under which is inscribed in plain, simple letters the words, "The buck stops there." Deep in the bowels of his unsightly yellow ship, the Vogon captain grunted as he reached for a slightly faded and dog-eared piece of paper that lay in front of him. A demolition order. If you were to unravel exactly where the captain's job, which was to do his job, actually began, then it all came down at last to this piece of paper that had been issued to him by his immediate superior long ago. The piece of paper had an instruction on it, and his purpose was to carry out that instruction and put a little tick mark in the adjacent box when he had carried it out. He had carried out the instruction once before, but the number of the troublesome circumstances had prevented him from being able to put the tick in the little box. One of the troublesome circumstances was the plural nature of the galactic sector, where the possible continually interfered with the probable. Simple demolition didn't get you any further than pushing down a bubble under a badly hung strip of wallpaper. Anything you demolished kept on popping up again. That would soon be taken care of. Now there was a small bunch of people who continually refused to be where they were supposed to be when they were supposed to be there. That also would soon be taken care of. The third was an irritating and anarchic little device called the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That was now well and truly taken care of, and in fact, through the phenomenal power of temporal reverse engineering, it was now itself the agency through which everything else would be taken care of. The captain had merely come to watch the final act of this drama. He himself did not have to lift a finger. "Show me," he said. The shadowy shape of a bird spread its wings and rose into the air near him. Darkness engulfed the bridge. Dim lights danced briefly in the black eyes of the bird as, deep in its instructional address space, bracket after bracket was finally closing. If clauses were finally ending, repeat loops halting. Recursive functions calling themselves for the last few times. A brilliant vision lit up in the darkness, a watery blue and green vision. A tube flowing through the air, shaped like a chopped-up string of sausages. With a flatulent noise of satisfaction, the Logon captain sat back to watch. Chapter 25. "Just there, number 42, shouted Ford Prefect to the taxi driver. "Right there." The taxi lurched to a halt, and Ford and Arthur jumped out. They had stopped at quite a number of cash dispensers on the way, and Ford chucked a fistful of money through the window at the driver. The entrance to the club was dark, smart, and severe. Only the smallest little plaque bore its name. Members knew where it was, and if you weren't a member, then knowing where it was wasn't any help to you. Ford Prefect was not a member of Stavros, though he had once been to Stavros, other club in New York. He had a very simple method of dealing with establishments of which he was not a member. He simply swept in as soon as the door was open, pointed back at Arthur, and said, "It's okay, he's with me." He bounded down the dark, glossy stairs, feeling very fruity in his new shoes. They were suede and they were blue, and he was very pleased that in spite of everything else going on, he had been sharp-eyed enough to spot them in a shop window from the back of a speeding taxi. "I thought I told you not to come here." "What?" said Ford. A thin, ill-looking man wearing something baggy and Italian was walking up the stairs past them, lighting a cigarette, and had stopped suddenly. "Not you," he said. "Him." He looked straight at Arthur, then seemed to become a little confused. "Excuse me," he said. "I think I must have mistaken you for someone else." He started on up the stairs again, but almost immediately turned around once more, even more puzzled. He stared at Arthur. "Now what?" said Ford. "What did you say?" "I said, now what?" repeated Ford irritably. "Yes, I think so," said the man, and swayed slightly and dropped the book of matches he'd been carrying. His mouth moved weakly. Then he put his hand to his forehead. "Excuse me," he said. "I'm trying desperately to remember which drug I've just taken, but it must be one of those ones that mean you can't remember." He shook his head and turned away again and went up toward the men's room. "Come on," said Ford. He hurried on downstairs, with Arthur following nervously in his wake. The encounter had shaken him badly, and he didn't know why. He didn't like places like this. For all the dreams of Earth and home he had had for years, he now badly missed his hut in Lumiela, with his knives and his sandwiches. He even missed old Thrashbard. "Arthur!" It was the most astounding effect. His name was being shouted in stereo. He twisted to look one way. Up the stairs behind him, he saw Trillian hurrying down toward him in her wonderfully rumpled rimplon. She was looking suddenly aghast. He twisted the other way to see what she was looking suddenly aghast at. At the bottom of the stairs was Trillian wearing... No, this was Trisha. Trisha that he had just seen hysterical with confusion on television. And behind her was Random, looking more wild-eyed than ever. Behind her in the recesses of the smart, dimly lit club, the other clientele of the evening formed a frozen tableau, staring anxiously up at the confrontation on the stairs. For a few seconds, everyone stood stock still. Only the music from behind the bar didn't know to stop throbbing. "The gun she is holding," said Ford quietly, nodding slightly toward Random, "is a Wabanada 3. It was in the ship she stole from me. It's quite dangerous, in fact. Just don't move for a moment. Let's just everybody stay calm and find out what's upsetting her." "Where do I fit?" screamed Random suddenly. The hand holding the gun was trembling fiercely. Her other hand delved into her pocket and pulled out the remains of Arthur's watch. She shook it at them. "I thought I would fit here," she cried, "on the world that made me, but it turns out that even my mother doesn't know who I am." She flung the watch violently aside and it smashed into the glasses behind the bar, scattering its innards. Everyone was very quiet for a moment or two longer. "Random," said Trillian quietly from up on the stairs. "Shut up," shouted Random. "You abandoned me." "Random, it is very important that you listen to me and understand," persisted Trillian quietly. "There isn't very much time. We must leave. We must all leave." "What are you talking about? We're always leaving." She had both hands on the gun now, and both were shaking. There was no one in particular she was pointing it at. She was just pointing it at the world in general. "Listen," said Trillian again. "I left you because I went to cover a war for the network. It was extremely dangerous. At least, I thought it was going to be. I arrived and the war had suddenly ceased to happen. There was a time anomaly and, listen, please listen. A reconnaissance battleship had failed to turn up. The rest of the fleet was scattered in some farcical disarray that's happening all the time now. I don't care. I don't want to hear about your bloody job," shouted Random. "I want a home. I want to fit somewhere." "This is not your home," said Trillian, still keeping her voice calm. "You don't have one. None of us have one. Hardly anybody has one anymore. The missing ship I was just talking about, the people of that ship don't have a home. They don't know where they're from. They don't even have any memory of who they are or what they are for. They are very lost and very confused and very frightened. They're here in the solar system and they are about to do something very misguided because they are so lost and confused. We must leave now. I can't tell you where there is to go to. Perhaps there isn't anywhere, but here is not the place to be. Please, one more time, can we go?" Random was wavering in panic and confusion. "It's all right," said Arthur gently. "If I'm here, we're safe. Don't ask me to explain just now, but I am safe, so you are safe, okay?" "What are you saying?" said Trillian. "Let's all just relax," said Arthur. He was feeling very tranquil. His life was charmed, and none of this seemed real. Slowly, gradually, Random began to relax and to let the gun down, inch by inch. Two things happened simultaneously. The door to the men's room at the top of the stairs opened, and the man who had accosted Arthur came out sniffing. Startled at the sudden movement, Random lifted the gun again, just as the man standing behind her made a grab for it. Arthur threw himself forward. There was a deafening explosion. He fell awkwardly as Trillian threw herself down over him. The noise died away. Arthur looked up to see the man at the top of the stairs gazing down at him with a look of utter stupefaction. "You!" he said, then slowly, horribly, he fell apart. Random threw the gun down and fell to her knees, sobbing. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Trisha went to her. Trillian went to her. Arthur sat on the stairs with his head between his hands and had not the faintest idea what to do. Ford was sitting on the stair beneath him. He picked something up, looked at it with interest, and passed it to Arthur. "This mean anything to you?" he said. Arthur took it. It was a book of matches that the dead man had dropped. It had the name of the club on it. It had the name of the proprietor of the club on it. It looked like this: Stavro Mueller Beta. He stared at it for some time as things began slowly to reassemble themselves in his mind. He wondered what he should do, but he only wondered it idly. Around him, people were beginning to rush and shout a lot, but it was suddenly very clear to him that there was nothing to be done, not now or ever. Through the new strangeness of noise and light, he could just make out the shape of Ford Prefect sitting back and laughing wildly. A tremendous feeling of peace came over him. He knew that at last, for once and forever, it was now all finally over. In the darkness of the bridge at the heart of the Vogon ship, Prostetnik Vogon Jeltz sat alone. Lights flared briefly across the external vision screens that lined one wall. In the air above him, the discontinuities in the blue and green watery sausage shape resolved themselves. Options collapsed, possibilities folded into each other, and the whole at last resolved itself out of existence. A very deep darkness descended. The Vogon captain sat immersed in it for a few seconds. "Light?" he said. There was no response. The bird, too, had crumpled out of all possibility. The Vogon turned on the light himself. He picked up the piece of paper again and placed a little tick in the little box. Well, that was done. His ship slunk off into the inky void. In spite of having taken what he regarded as an extremely positive piece of action, the Grabulan leader ended up having a very bad month after all. It was pretty much the same as all the previous months, except that there was now nothing on the television anymore. He put on a little light music instead. And that's the end of that book. About the author. Douglas Adams was the best-selling author of the Hitchhiker books, The Restaurant at the End of the Universe, Life, the Universe, and Everything, So Long and Thanks for All the Fish, and Mostly Harmless. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy has appeared in more forms than one might reasonably expect, most of which flatly contradict each other. It has appeared as a BBC TV series, all sorts of different records, cassettes, and CDs, a computer game, and also, apathetically, a bath towel. A series of graphic novels is currently in preparation, and the motion picture version is confidently expected any decade now. Douglas Adams died on May 11th, 2001. So there's another book that's out, and it says, and don't miss it! Douglas Adams made the universe a much funnier place to inhabit and forever changed the way we think about towels, extraterrestrial poetry, and especially the number 42 in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series, and then too soon he was gone. Just who was this impossibly tall Englishman? Written by a longtime friend of the author, this official biography is a revealing cosmic ride through the unique and winsome world of Douglas Adams. This includes 16 pages of exclusive photos. Praise for Wish You Were Here. Web-style brims with affection and humor. Every page is a delight. So the book is called Wish You Were Here, the official biography of Douglas Adams. Don't panic, there's more to the Hitchhiker's Guide. Read the complete series. So, in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Arthur Dent, mild-mannered, out-to-lunch Earthling, is plucked from his planet by his friend Ford Prefect, just seconds before it was demolished to make way for hyperspace bypass. Together, the hapless twosome begin an intergalactic journey through time and space. Don't forget to bring your towel. And then, the second book is The Restaurant at the End of the Universe. So, facing annihilation at the hands of the warmongers is a curious time to crave tea. It could only happen to a cosmically displaced Arthur Dent. Then we have Life, the Universe, and Everything. The unhappy inhabitants of Planet Cricket are sick of looking at the night sky, so they plan to destroy it. The universe, that is. Now only 5 individuals can avert Armageddon. The next book is So Long and Thanks for All the Fish. It's a gift-wrapped fishbowl with a cryptic inscription. Conspires to thrust Arthur Dent back to reality. And then we have Mostly Harmless, which we just finished. Just when Arthur Dent makes the terrible mistake of starting to enjoy life, all hell breaks loose. So if you guys haven't read it, I suggest you do. This series has been awesome. I'm so glad that, I don't know, for some reason it just came to me. I think I was just walking through the library, killing time, and on the very first shelf there, I think it was the third shelf down, basically at face level, I saw The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and I had heard so many good things, I just had to pick it up and read it. So it's been pretty dang awesome. So on that note, boys and girls, we are going to go to our second music break. On this break, we have Miss Mia Savage, her band Antidote for Savages, singing To Your Grave, Bury Me in Heaven, Not a Phase, and The Bottom Line. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break. Man, oh man. Welcome back, and thanks so much for hanging out with me tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. Let me just look over here again. Okay. I was buffering for a second over there, and it kind of scared me, but you guys are still here, so we're all good. Alright, so now's the part of a little show where we watch a video together. So, going to be watching That's Impossible, and this guy has some thick videos. So let's get over here. Hold on. I'm going to present to you the video. That's right, boys and girls. No way, video's so crazy you'll throw your phone away, and this is by That Is Impossible. Make sure that you subscribe to this guy, because it's pretty darn epic what he does over here. He does really, really good work, so definitely go subscribe to him. Here we go. You ready?
In just a few moments.
It's haunting.
We got another one,
crazy?
another one over here.
Has to be the mud flood.
Van caminando allá. Que cambie de forma de sí, cambia de forma.
Mira, una bruja, man.
What was up with that lady's hand? Holy shit, it's Bigfoot!
When we went by and I turned it on, and the eyes disappeared.
What?
Hi, I'm James Lafleur and you're watching the Impossible channel. Welcome
Hey James,
aboard.
what are you doing
Don't
way
forget
down
to leave
there?
a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications on for more videos like this. Today we're going to be taking a look at unbelievable moments that were actually caught on camera. From eerie encounters with mermaids and mysterious creatures to an ancient mystery that was uncovered by a YouTuber after finding a bizarre sign on Google Earth. These and many more strange and unexplained videos that will definitely make you go, Are you guys ready? Because this is going to be a wild one. Well, let's go.
Of course! The Impossible channel with James Lafleur.
Now, I don't know about you, but one of my favorite things to do is traveling to the beach, and when I do so, I like to stare at the ocean and ask myself about the mysteries that lie deep within.
What the heck is that? Hello?
I mean, there has to be much more to the ocean than we would ever imagine, being that 80% of it is still unknown. And if we take a look at certain ancient maps, there are loads of them that depict drawings of mermaids and other mysterious creatures. But it's not just ancient maps. Mermaids were also very much present in many cultures such as Celtic culture, Greek mythology, and the list goes on.
Celtic.
Now, could it be that sailors encountered such creatures? Or is it just a legend? A bad time story? In 2021, a fisherman known as Host TessaTNT began having these bizarre...
And I was thinking, like, okay, so back in the day, guys were really into girls with curves, you know. So you could be overweight, and that was a good thing, because it meant you were fed good, etc., etc. So I was thinking, like, maybe manatees were mistaken as mermaids, but oh no.
And mysterious encounters while on the ocean. And after going viral with several videos, he disappeared from the internet.
What?
Now, just recently, Host TessaTNT began uploading videos once more of these mysterious encounters of what people believe to be evidence of the existence of mermaids.
Absolutely. You've never seen anything like this? No.
But before I show you these videos, let me explain how it all started.
Us 90, and we just out here. We're chilling.
It all began with him hearing strange vocalizations at night in the middle of the ocean.
Out here chilling.
It's sirens.
I hear it. I hear him. Where's she at? What the f is that noise, bro? What is that noise?
As a fisherman and spending
That's
most of
creepy.
his time on board, he began experiencing strange things.
Where are you?
Talk to it.
This is crazy. I heard it. I heard it. I hear it. Crazy. That's nuts.
In this particular video, if you pay close attention, we can hear what sounds like some sort of vocalization, as if this creature, whatever it is trying to communicate with him.
Sounds like there's a couple of them.
It is a
There's like
popular
2 or 3.
belief that mermaids try to lure people in by singing or enchanting sailors, and I guess
My oldest daughter used to call them murder maids. It was cute. Watching Pirates of the Caribbean, she would call it Pirates of the Scary-bean.
this is exactly what was happening with
pretty
Sauce
creepy.
90.
Can you hear me? Yo, that was instantaneous, bro. Oh, I gotta watch my step out here, man.
The thing is,
Yeah,
not
dude,
only
you
was
better
his
be
account
careful.
banned for some mysterious reason after publishing these videos, he was recording them live, which would mean that this is possibly the real deal.
Isn't that crazy?
Yo! Where
Hi,
are
hi, hi.
you?
Hi, hi, hi.
Oh, that's over here. Wait, no, now it's there.
That's so freaking creepy. So creepy.
Strange, isn't it? But here's where things get even stranger.
We got another one over here. What are
Oh, there it
they?
is. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. See? 2 to 3.
On each side of the boat.
Yeah.
What are
they're
those
coming for your
trails? Oh,
ass.
something's swimming fast underneath that water. Something's swimming real fast underneath that water.
In this particular video, we can clearly see that there's something swimming side by side with his boat.
Wow.
And if all
That
of
ain't
this
no damn
weren't strange
dolphin.
enough, a couple of weeks after posting this video, his boat was approached by a scientific laboratory of some sort, and both Sauce 90 and his crew were caught by surprise.
Source 90. The is legit here. Peep game, let's be sneaky. You're gonna be out here doing testing. Testing what? What the are you guys testing? That's what I want to know.
Looking for those dang sirens.
Source 90 has heard certain things out in the ocean, and then my TikTok gets banned, and then shows up my boat. It's too many.
Yeah, like, why are you getting banned? I don't see anything like bad here except for you're sharing the truth.
Coincidences.
A couple of months
So
go
weird.
by and there's no sounds, no sightings, nothing. This is until this happens.
At the docks.
Followed him home.
Hey yo, you hear that? I know what the that is. That bitch followed me the in.
I'm telling you, she followed you home,
At the
Holmes.
docks though?
Just a couple of days after, Sauce 90 goes back to his commercial
After
fishing
your
trips,
ass.
and on one dark night, he finds a mysterious bone on the ship's deck. After posting the picture to Instagram, there were many internet
Whoa.
users stating that this is possibly the
That's what I was
tale
gonna say.
of a mermaid.
The tail.
Now, being someone with a certain level of expertise on marine life, Sauce 90 is unable to identify the bone,
It's
so he
saucy.
takes it to an expert, and this is what
Today
happens.
was the day. I got a call back from the Whaling Museum, and they had an expert there who was willing to talk to me about the bone that I have found.
Wow. Isn't that amazing? That's amazing.
Don't know what it is.
Yeah, everybody's saying they haven't seen nothing like it. Usually the bones that come up are like vertebrae and stuff, but nobody's seen anything like this.
Take a photo, Bob.
Wow.
Ask me to take a photo of it.
Absolutely. You've never seen anything like this?
No. I don't know what it is.
That's crazy.
Could it actually be that Sauce 90 has evidence of the existence of mermaids? And why is it that these mysterious creatures are trying to communicate with him? Now, just recently, he posted another video where we can see that there's
come into the
something once
water.
again swimming next to his boat.
Whoa. What is that? That's weird. Oh, where the go?
On that same night, he
there it
captures
is.
something
Okay.
swimming very close to his boat, so he gets his camera and tries to snap a video of it. And this is what he saw. Did you see that? Now, whatever this thing is, most internet users agree
Kinda.
that there's something there and that it could be
Yeah.
a mermaid. But I want to know your take.
Wow, man.
Do you think that mermaids possibly exist hidden somewhere deep down in the ocean? And what do you think about Sauce 90's encounters?
I also believe
Do you
in
think that this
unicorns
is possibly fake and that he's doing this for views?
and dragons.
Or do you think that this is the real deal and there's something
And
else going
duck-billed
on here,
platypus?
something far more sinister? What's your take?
Fairies.
Now, when it comes to
gnomes
outdoor
and
activities,
Eskimos
Mount
as
San
well.
Jacinto is a go-to destination for hikers and nature lovers. Located in Southern California, Mount San Jacinto is a beautiful place surrounded by wildlife and towering forests. And
almost
every
as
year,
pretty as
around
here.
200,000 people visit this region with the intention of camping, hiking, that sort of thing. But besides all of its beauty lies a very dark mystery. It's also known to be a hotspot for mysterious sightings
Oh, wow. Look at that. That looks like a
and
little tiny
unexplained
baby tornado.
disappearances. For instance, in 2020,
Oh, no, not John
there were a
Johnson.
series
Are you serious? I think I know that guy.
of hikers that went missing for unknown reasons, and these cases remain unsolved to this day. There are several theories to why this happens in this particular region, ranging from dangerous people and unexplained disappearances.
Starting to see
For
that
instance, in
again.
2020,
I think I know that
there
guy.
were a series of hikers that went missing for unknown reasons, and these cases remain unsolved to this day. There are several theories to why this happens in this particular region, ranging from dangerous people who live in the area to unexplained phenomena. It was also in 2020 that a series of unexplained phenomena happened in the region.
This changing different shapes, bro. It was just a circle.
Wow. Yeah, that is odd.
Look!
On October 14th that same year, a YouTuber by the name of Mario Jimenez was driving to work on Route 62
Jimenez.
when all of a sudden he spots something odd nearby. He gets
This
his
UFO
camera
is
and
taking the
immediately
highway.
begins to record, and this is what he saw.
Isn't that crazy? Wow. He doesn't even care. He's like, hey, how's it going? Hello. Hello, UFO. Hello. What are you doing out there, UFO?
What appears to be a massive unknown object can be seen hovering nearby, and after posting the video to YouTube, it left internet users baffled but a bit divided.
Okay, so what is it? Also, we went to Arkansas to not only bury my Uncle Bill, who he was like my dad, because my mom was killed by a drunk driver. My dad basically sent us to our grandparents, never sent back for us. So my aunt and uncle came and got us, and so he was like my dad. And my aunt, she's now my mom. She adopted me a few years ago, and I'm so grateful. But on the way back from Arkansas, we were going through Austin, Texas, and it's like right before we hit Austin, on the very outskirts, and they have these windmills like this. And I saw something like going up and down, up and down. And at first I thought it was like some sort of monitor tower or something, but then it was going up and down, and the road's just like straight-laced, no ups and downs. And then we get closer, and I'm like, brother, look, because my brother, cousin, son, has never seen a UFO. I'm like, that is a UFO. It looked like one of those kind of top hats, so it's like a saucer, but with a little observation window, and it was just going up and down, like, I don't know if it was like reading what they're doing or what. I don't know what it was doing. But then it just all of a sudden shot off. It was trippy. I was in the front seat, so I couldn't see it as long as Aaron did, but he said he saw it going up and down and then it shot off. I saw it going up and down. I didn't see it shoot off, but They're out there, boys and girls.
Some believe that this is a blimp, and it actually looks as if it could
No,
be,
it's
while
not.
others state
It's one of
that a
those
blimp wouldn't be
tic-tackers.
flying that close to so many wind
I got a video of
turbines,
2 of those
which
guys
kind of makes sense.
out in my front yard.
However, if we try to zoom in and replay the video a couple of times, it's very difficult to affirm if this is indeed
is
a
not a
blimp
blimp.
or something else entirely. But this is
It's a
not the
wheels
first
and
time something like this happens in this region of California. In 2022, a mysterious phenomenon was seen by many different people in Palmdale, just 100 miles north from Mount San Jacinto, and this is what was caught on camera.
Whoa! Wow. It's a sign. Don't do it.
Dude.
Don't do it.
Okay, guys, I want a picture with all our kids.
That is crazy. Some people are like, oh, it's
In this
seagulls.
particular video,
That
a
is not
family was
seagulls.
celebrating a birthday party when all of a sudden they spot dozens, if not hundreds, of luminous objects
I thought it was
nearby.
an engagement party.
At first, they thought it could be fireworks, maybe a meteor shower, or something like that. But this is when they start realizing that this thing does not behave like anything they had ever seen before.
Isn't that?
The thing is, that night, many other people noticed the same mysterious phenomenon in other places in Palmdale. Check this out.
It is weird, man.
Yeah, isn't it? Those aren't seagulls. I've seen videos like this and people are like, seagulls. No, it's not.
It's not burning up. So
They'd be coming down saying, mine. It's a freaking armada. A spacecraft, man.
that's so trippy.
Yes, it is.
Isn't it?
Oh my god, where's Daddy? I don't know. Oh
Where's
my god, I
Daddy?
got goosebumps.
Yeah, isn't that trippy? It's trippy AF.
Tell Jody and them.
What is that? What is that?
I love it when kids see this, and like when I saw those 2 Tic Tacs from my front yard,
What is
my
that?
youngest daughter was the one who saw it. Mom, see UFO! There's 2! It's amazing.
Are they lanterns?
My 2 eldest, and now one's 20, one's 24, but we were out looking at fursuits.
Whatever these things are, it seems that most people agree
They're all
that these are
stacked up in
not
the back of the
lanterns,
truck, and I'm
balloons,
sitting there
or
taking
anything like
pictures
that.
because the moon is just
So,
amazing.
what are they?
Really, you can't really see
They're gone.
shooting
they're,
stars or
they're
anything
still
like
there.
meteorites
They're far
or whatever.
Now, what makes this
Because it
all
was so
very
cloudy, but
interesting
the
is that
light
just
coming off the
recently
moon was
something
like an
very
electric
similar was
blue.
seen in Wichita,
And
but
then
this time
going through my
during
photos
the
as
day.
a photographer,
Check
you go
this
and
out.
check your photos.
Does anyone have any
They were
idea what's
tucked
flying
in
over Wichita right
around
now?
all the clouds.
I just was on a walk and I saw
Holy
these out to the
crap,
west, and I thought they were
dude.
birds or balloons at first, but they were moving in a perfectly straight
the
line with no
hell?
flapping or anything like that, so not a clue what they could be. They're flying very smoothly though.
And they don't care. They're not even trying to hide anymore. It's so scary.
In this particular video, an internet account by the name of Velo Ace captures something really strange in Wichita. Now, according to Velo Ace, these are not balloons nor drones, and at first,
That's where
I
my
did
bestie
think it
lives,
could
I
be
think.
just a balloon launch. If you take a look at videos of hundreds of balloons flying, it actually looks as if it could be the same thing.
Well, yeah,
But
they're
then I
different
noticed something
sizes.
strange. If we compare the object's speed with the building
look at that one.
that's static on the
That one.
ground, it seems as if the objects
And
are
that one.
moving too fast to be balloons.
And that
Not
one.
only that,
And that one.
they appear to be flying in
And that one.
formation and not erratically like balloons would. And they don't seem to be drones to me, but I could be
Yeah,
wrong.
look at that. Different
So,
sizes.
if these things are not drones
Little
nor
speckly ones,
balloons,
bigger ones.
what are they? Strange, isn't it? But here's where things take an even stranger turn.
I saw that.
A couple of weeks after, a landscaper known as Ivan Green was
I actually
working
got
somewhere in
a video of
Guadalajara,
that.
Mexico,
Trying
when
to
all
see
of a
a video of
sudden
the-
him and his team noticed
I think it
something
was a solar
very
eclipse.
odd, something that wasn't supposed to be there.
That's my
This
lens.
is what they saw.
Wow.
Un objeto volador.
My rooster is so funny. He's like,
Did you see that? What appears to be a mysterious round object can be seen spinning silently in the sky. After being posted to the internet, it amassed thousands of views and hundreds of comments, and most people were completely baffled by it.
His name is Bob Ross, and if you want him, come get him. My friend Bert's gonna take him.
However, there were some people who stated that this is possibly an upside-down umbrella that was somehow uplifted by the wind current. So I began researching the topic and I found more videos, and in them, it's not very clear that this is an upside-down umbrella, even though it could be.
Fishing net? Isn't that crazy?
Now, if all of this weren't strange enough, it gets even stranger. After replaying a couple of these videos in slow-mo, I found out that in the very beginning of Ivan Green's video, we can see two small objects crossing the sky at very high speed.
Yeah, I thought those were bugs, but I guess not. Yeah, look,
now, taking into consideration that the average speed of a small bird is between 10 to 30 miles an hour, it's very possible that these are not birds. It could be something else entirely. But the question is, what and why were they flying next to this mysterious object that some believe to be an upside-down umbrella? But I want to know your take. Why do you think Mount San Jacinto is such a weird place full of strange phenomena? And do you think that this is an upside-down umbrella, or is it something else entirely?
Entirely. Something else entirely.
Located in southern Ontario, Canada, is a native tribe known as the Ojibwe, one of the largest indigenous groups in North America. From the early 1900s to the 1970s, the Ojibwe often spoke of a mysterious creature that roamed the woods, known as the Old Yellow Top.
Oh no.
This mysterious creature, while similar to what many today call Bigfoot or Sasquatch, had a distinguishing feature: a patch of yellowish hair and brownish fur. Now, even though most people would say that Bigfoot is just a myth or a bad time story, to the Ojibwe tribe and many others, Bigfoot is considered to be very real.
Silverton, Colorado.
They say don't be scared when you see one or anything like that. Well, I was scared.
I saw this one today. This guy's just chilling under a tree. He's like, he felt somebody watching him.
Not only that, southern Ontario is considered to be a hotspot for Bigfoot sightings, and there are dozens of stories of people who have supposedly encountered this elusive creature. And it was on a beautiful sunny day that a hiker came face to face with this mysterious creature known as the Old Yellow Top.
Bigfoot is like offspring.
On December 2013, just a few days away from Christmas, a YouTuber known as Timber Giant Bigfoot was hiking in southern Ontario in search for this elusive creature. And after hours of walking deep into the woods, he began feeling as if he wasn't all alone. This is what happened.
I thought it was a wood knocker. It's more of that nut-breaking sound I heard. It's back in this way somewhere. There's the shelter.
Sounds painful.
I just came all through there. Check the stones. Stones are all still there.
That's messy.
I don't know. You know, a lot of the time when I hear things out here, as soon as I hear it, it's pretty much the end of it. It's already stopped. You know, something could be right in front of you back here. You wouldn't even know it.
After hearing mysterious knocking sounds, he spots what looks like some sort of shelter. Now, being that he's in the middle of the woods and that there's no one out there, he knows that this is possibly not made by a human being. So he decides to follow the knocking sounds in hopes of capturing something on camera. And this is what happens next.
Hopefully it's Bigfoot and not one of those predator things, because those predator things scare me.
I see nothing. Holy crap. Where's that?
Yep.
Oh, it's a little baby one. A little baby Bigfoot.
Oh, come on. It's right there.
Look at it. It's a little
I don't have
baby
my glasses
guy.
on. Girl, look at that.
Aww. Holy shnikes. Look at this furry little self. I think he's eating or something. What is he doing? Trying to hide from this freaky human being.
Oh crap, I lost it. Holy. I'm pretty sure that was the thing that was making the noise.
Aww, as a baby, you can tell.
At this point, Timber Giant spots a huge creature in the
Where's his
distance.
mommy and daddy?
It does not look like a bear nor anything like that. And whatever this thing is, it's clearly making the knocking sounds that he was talking about earlier.
He's so cute. Oh man.
Holy.
It's a little fuzzy guy. I want one.
Look, my God.
He's got his back turned. He's doing something. He might be picking something out of his foot or something.
I'm guessing it's probably. Look right here. It's probably like, I don't know, 150 feet away.
After remaining silent and watching the creature closely for a few minutes, he makes a knocking sound in the attempt to communicate with this thing. And this is what happens.
I'll see what happens. I don't know if I should do this or not.
Where's that, dude? Lift up. Lift up.
Where is it? Where's it? Oh,
Oh my God.
look at this.
Oh.
Holy. I gotta take my shoes off.
Whatever this thing is, it stands up and quickly walks away.
Don't do that.
Timber Giant does what anyone would do, and he walks over to where this creature was. And he finds a couple of rocks and some fruits.
Now look for some footprints.
You're just
Look
hanging
at this
out.
though. Holy.
You disturbed his freaking picnic. Thanks a lot, guy.
The stone is
You just
even
had him
more.
knock on that tree, didn't you?
Look, there's where it was smashing things with it. Look at this.
It's his
The
little
stone's right in the
handprint on
ground.
it.
What he
Why you
doesn't
messing with his
realize,
stuff,
however,
man?
is that this thing was watching him from afar.
There it is. It's watching you, dude.
After posting the video to the internet, it caught a lot of attention, and most people seem to agree that this is possibly one of the best video evidence of the existence of Bigfoot. One internet user even stated, "When it threw its head back, I could see the eye and cheekbone perfectly. Great job." Now, I'm not exactly sure if I can see an eye or a cheekbone. What I do know, however, is that this is definitely not a bear, nor anything like that. But I want to know your take. What would you have done differently in this situation? And are you also able to see the creature's eyes and cheekbone in this video?
I didn't. I wish I did, though. Little flower. You know, baby guy. You can tell because of how fluffy
The
his
world that we
furs
live
is.
in is full of beautiful and mysterious places to visit. From the amazing mountains of Machu Picchu to the ancient city of
His mom
Bacon,
and dad's
it
probably
would take
doing like
years
Bigfoot
traveling across the
chores
world
and stuff,
just to
and
get
he's
to
just out
know
there
most
trying
of
to
these
have a picnic
places.
for this
However,
human
in
being
today's
came
world, there's
in.
something that we can do to help us travel way faster and pinpoint the exact place that we want to go to, and that would be Google Earth. For the past few months, several YouTubers have been using Google Earth to find interesting places to visit, and then actually venturing into these places and sometimes coming face to face with the most mysterious things.
For a court case.
This is the case with Desert Drifter, a YouTuber who's been doing this for quite a while now and just recently came across something truly fascinating.
Truly fascinating.
While searching for new places to visit on Google Earth,
Okay, so I was talking about this last night. Okay, so before the flood, there was the mud flood. So it was like mudslides and shit. Because, you know, the earth is so saturated. There's mudslides, mud is covering everything. That's where you get the dinosaur tracks. And then you also get giant footprints, giant handprints, and other things like that. This is giant handprints in the mud flood, like they're trying to climb or whatever.
he came across this mysterious symbol on the ground. Something that actually looks like an X marks the spot. Now, thinking that this can't be something natural and sensing that there might be more to this place than meets the eye, he chose this particular spot to start his trip and explore the surroundings. Little did he know that he was in for a surprise.
Alright, let's get rolling. There's no trail up this thing, it's just a pick your own adventure kind of deal.
While climbing to the top, he does a quick Google search on the symbol and he finds one blog post about it with not much information on it and nothing else.
I have no idea if there's been any more light shed on this thing or if it's ever been investigated by archaeologists. This thing appears to be shrouded in mystery.
After getting to the top and exploring the surroundings, he quickly comes to the conclusion that this is most likely man-made. But the question is, who made it, how long ago, and what for?
Go in there.
Circle.
Seriously, dude?
There's another, it's like an inner circle. Here in rocks in the middle there.
Desert Drifter takes his drone out and notices how it's made with extreme precision, as if it's some sort of compass. Not only that, he realizes how it looks like a medicine wheel, something that Native American tribes used to build sometimes to align with astronomical phenomena, very similar to Stonehenge. But to this day, most of these wheels remain a mystery. Just so you have an idea, the oldest medicine wheel in Alberta, Canada dates back to 5,200 years ago. So it might just be that he came across something very, very old.
Just had an interesting thought. I'm standing here just trying to follow that line out and see, is there anything on the horizon that's obvious? And I don't see anything, but I just remembered there are supposedly 2 petroglyph panels somewhere east of here. How curious would it be if those were in sort of perfect alignment with this structure?
Could you imagine?
By now, Desert Drifter starts realizing that this symbol might actually be pointing towards something, taking into consideration that the only horizon line that's visible is towards the west, and this is exactly where one of the spokes with the circular enclosure is pointed at. So taking notes of the GPS coordinates, he drives over to this place to find out, and this is what happens.
Careful, my dude.
After driving for half an hour, Desert Drifter stops at the first cliff he finds where the symbol was pointed at, and for his surprise, he finds mysterious petroglyphs.
Wow.
Interesting.
Gladders?
Just to make sure that this is not some sort of coincidence, he continues on driving west to another cliff. And this is when things take a very strange turn.
Yeah,
once again, you got the mountain pretty prominent.
Mesa.
And I see that there are a lot of cliffs down here. So let's go check those cliffs out.
Wow, man.
It seems as if the more Desert Drifter followed the symbol's path, the more things he found, up until the moment that he came across something truly unbelievable. Check this out.
Well, shouldn't come as a surprise at this point. There's our mountain again.
Mesa.
There's the first set. The sun angle is making some odd shadows, but it's what we got.
What is all this?
Definitely looks like a bison to me.
Looks like freaking UFO to me.
After coming across a series of odd shapes and a cavern full of markings,
oh goodness,
he comes across what looks like some sort of giant hand carved perfectly into the rock.
Like, look at that.
The baby hand. There's a giant dad hand. Could be the wife over here.
Right hand.
Wow.
Huh.
I'm telling you, this is mud flood stuff.
It's kind of weird.
That's
it's like
amazing.
It's warm in there.
After doing some research, I found out that this is most likely in White Mountain, Wyoming. And Wyoming is a place full of ancient mysteries. Places like the Devil's Tower.
This is not a rock formation. This is the Athens stump. From the giants that was cut down, just like other stumps of giant trees that were cut down.
The medicine wheels.
I'm telling you.
The eerie legends of red-haired giants. And a number of unknown petroglyphs.
At the Legend Rock site.
Wow.
See the little alien guy?
Thunderbird!
Over here.
Yep, alien.
You think it
That's
looks
a
like a
giant fucking bird right there.
These petroglyphs here, they're saying are 6,000 to 8,000 BC.
These are just a few of the mysteries that surround the state of Wyoming. Now the thing is, to this day, it's a complete mystery to how this hand was carved into the stone wall. While some believe that these carvings were made by pregnant women giving birth, others state that this was most likely done using some sort of ancient technology that we have no knowledge of.
Whoa, dude.
Scattered throughout the world are numerous ancient sites that hint at the use of mysterious technologies, methods, and tools that remain largely unknown or misunderstood by modern researchers. These sites suggest that ancient civilizations might have possessed advanced knowledge or capabilities that we know very little or nothing about. Now what's really bizarre about this specific carving is the size. It doesn't look like a regular sized human hand. It looks like a giant one.
Yes.
Not only that, this is a human carving on sandstone made nowadays. The precision from both carvings is quite different. The carving in White Mountain is perfect, taking into consideration that it was made thousands of years ago. There's something indeed haunting about it, but I'm not exactly sure what.
It's in the mud.
Could it be that this sign that Desert Drifter found on top of that mountain was pointed at something else other than the carvings and the petroglyphs? Something that maybe could help us uncover some of the ancient past.
It was a muddy mess.
But when it comes to finding strange structures on Google Earth, there's one that's been baffling a lot of people for quite some time, and that would be the Sage Wall in Montana. For the past couple of years, several people have been traveling over to the Sage Wall to try to find out if this is possibly a megalithic structure built by an ancient and forgotten civilization, or possibly just a natural phenomena. Now there's a really big chance that this is just some sort of natural formation. However, there are a few things about the Sage Wall that makes us wonder about what really happened in the past.
You'll see this? If this was man-made, if this wall and the other side over there, perhaps that side used to be stacked up better, and there was some kind of channel here.
Not only does the wall look like it was perfectly put together, there are several straight lines and perfect 90-degree angles all over the place.
Trees weren't there before.
One of the things also noted by a YouTuber named MTN are these mysterious nubs, very similar to what you can find in certain megalithic structures built all over the world.
See? This is what I'm talking about right here. Carved out perfectly. Only parts of it are left because something terrible happened.
There's another one of those bowl shapes. Again, I'm not an expert, but you can definitely imagine primitive people using this to mix, or even using this as the other side of the Lego piece for those nubs.
To make things even weirder, there's what appears to be tool marks scattered throughout the Sage Wall. These tool marks would maybe suggest that this is not a natural formation, but then the question would be, who did it, how long ago, and what for?
Giant nub right there.
Ain't nothing about it.
Right here. That's really odd.
Isn't that awesome?
I've got kind of small hands. 7.5 for those.
Now here's where things take a really strange turn. Around the Elkhorn Mountains, where the Sage Wall is located, you'll find several out-of-place artifacts, one of them being the Tizer Dolmen.
And so here's Tizer Creek down there.
Dude, seriously?
This is the Tizer Dolmen. Check out that.
Natural.
Amazing, huh?
Now a dolmen is a type of ancient stone tomb, usually consisting of large upright stones supporting a flat horizontal stone, forming a simple chamber. Dolmens found throughout the world usually date back to 3000 BC, which makes us wonder if the Sage Wall and the Tizer Dolmen may actually date back to something like 5,000 years ago. So taking all of this into consideration, could it be that this is all just a coincidence, or is the Tizer Dolmen and the Sage Wall part of a lost and ancient civilization that we have absolutely no knowledge of?
Isn't it intricate and amazing? It's badass.
In many different cultures all over the world, you'll hear these bizarre stories of people who have encountered mysterious beings that can somehow transform into animals or sometimes into humanoid creatures. In North America, Most of these beings are popularly known as skinwalkers or Wendigo.
There's more?
Wendigo's a little different.
I see
Wendigo.
you. Cameron Way.
Oh my gosh. Holy shnikes. Oh my gosh. That's a rake. That's a freaking rake.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Dude, this thing is a weird creature. It's not human.
I don't like
it.
Oh
my god. Like a gargoyle. It's like a gargoyle, man.
Dude, it's a freaking rake. It's the panther that transformed.
In Mexico, this mysterious being is known as Nagual.
Bruja means witch. It's a witch. Mira, mira.
And in Japan, you have the Obaki. Now, in most cases, you'll hear stories of people who supposedly encounter these things, and they talk about a human that they saw in the forest or in the woods, sometimes even inside their homes, and all of a sudden this thing transforms into an animal, or sometimes even a spirit or a shapeless form.
I'm going to tell you about some experiences that we had for EMS. Go out on our calls, we see some weird stuff. We got a call all the way out in isolated part of the reservation. Traveled out that way in our med unit ambulance. We're sitting there in the middle of the night, probably about 3 o'clock in the morning. So all of a sudden, we just saw some, like red balls bouncing all over in front of our med unit. And they kept going back and forth. I go, dude, I'm gonna turn on the lights. Because they look like dogs chasing each other is what it looked like. Sure enough, one went by and I turned it on and the eyes disappeared.
Is it just a coincidence that so many people all over the world share similar stories?
That reminds me of when I lived on County Road G, I believe it was. And that was basically at the base of the Sleeping Eat Mountain. It's kind of down the road from Pickle Claw, which is this convenience store and a porn shop, etc. But I was basically living on the res, and I would go outside to smoke, and like you're saying, like you see these red lights. Well, it was like reddish or yellow, whatever, and they're all getting closer and closer. All these like lights. It's just eyeballs reflecting the light of my back porch. And then closer and closer and closer. They would not come into the line of the light. They would just stay out there. And I was like bouncing. It was so weird.
Or is there something else to it? Just a couple of months ago, Fernando, a security guard who works the night shift somewhere in Chile, noticed that one of the fences had tripped the alarm system. When he went to check the CCTV cameras, he was left in complete shock.
What the heck is that?
Se acercando al cerco.
Wow.
Ahí está.
He just went through the fence.
Y ahora atravesó el muro.
That is insane, man. That is so crazy. Wow.
Ahí va caminando allá. Salió al perímetro, calla. Como que cambia de forma. Sí, cambia de forma. Vuelve a entrar.
Whatever this thing is, it can be clearly seen tripping the alarm system, and just after that we can see it sort of jumping over the fence. This is when all of a sudden this thing seems to transform into what appears to be a humanoid figure.
It went through.
After being posted to the internet, many people suggested that this could be a water droplet on the camera lens or maybe just some sort of insect. But it's not. If it were to be something like that, it wouldn't have tripped the alarm system. So whatever's going on here, it could just be that Fernando captured a Nagual or some sort of entity on camera. But it doesn't stop there. In another video captured by a security guard in a small town named Piedras, we can see something very similar.
Se mira esto como de luz pasando, pero no se graba muy bien. Y luego después sale como un señor, mira, se para ahí y se convierte en un señor.
Seems to morph into a person. Oh my gosh.
What at first looks like an orb of light can be seen in the video.
That is
Then
crazy.
moments after,
Like, I've seen
it
things
seems to transform into a person.
Into an orb,
Then
but I've
the
never seen it
strangest
the other way
thing
around.
happens.
Se queda ahí, ahí todavía está corriendo el reloj de la cámara, se está grabando, mira, se mira como dos cabezas, pues dos personas se mira ahí atravesadas a la misma vez.
It seems as if this person morphs and we can now see two different people
I see it now.
in the same
That was just a
place.
hairdo, but that is definitely two heads. It could be two
Now it
people.
could just be that this is a
standing next
problem
to
with the
each other.
camera
It could be a
compression, but
two-headed
the
person.
security guard was pretty much creeped out by it, as if he had
What the
never seen
crack?
anything like this. Not only that, most internet users seem to agree that even though this could be a glitch in the camera system, it's still very strange. Moments later,
do
this
have to
person
say,
turns
that's
away and
true.
simply vanishes into thin air. There's no silhouette,
Isn't that crazy?
no shadow, it's as if it never existed. But I want to know your take. Do you think that these videos are just a trick of light or something like that? Or is it possibly evidence of the existence of skinwalkers, Nagual, and mysterious beings that roam the earth?
Shapeshifters, skinwalkers.
Like a gargoyle. It's like a gargoyle, man.
Gargoyle.
And it's like 35 feet away. And
Well, this is it for now, but we do have more videos. Don't forget to check them out, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications on for more videos like this. And I'll see you guys again.
Thanks, James LaFleur. That guy's amazing. Anyways, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. Thank you to our friends on We Are Paradox Media's Facebook, KPNR Radio, eTalk Radio, Twitter, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and wherever else beyond the Omniverse that you have been listening tonight. Had an awesome time, and I can't wait to do it again next weekend. Basically, yeah, we got the Paradox Paranormal Forum, and then we have another story time with me, TessaTNT. So I'm gonna look back, see what my friend, I believe it's Mr. Hughes, I'm trying to remember. I think it's R. Hughes or something like that. Anyways, he suggested a book. Then recently I just saw, while I was looking through this book from Mr. Douglas Adams, he not only wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but he's written other books, so if I can't find what R. Hayes said, I will go and do that. Don't forget, you guys, we are all in this together. Together, we can make the world a bit better. And together, my friends, we are Paradox Media, because without you, there is no us. Until next time, 99 Level Night, take care of my views. Please don't work too hard this week. Please don't take life too seriously, and I love you. Thank you again so much for hanging out with me. Hope to see you again. Bye now. Bye.